And once again today, the United States and NATO officials refused to consider sending combat planes into the air over Ukraine to shoot down Russian planes. The Secretary General of NATO said this.
We are not part of this conflict, and we have a responsibility to ensure it does not escalate and spread beyond Ukraine, because that would be even more devastating and more dangerous, with even more human suffering. NATO is not seeking a war with Russia. Allies agree that we should not have NATO planes operating over Ukrainian airspace or NATO troops on Ukrainian territory.
Today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said this.
The only way to actually implement something like a no-fly zone is to send NATO planes into Ukrainian airspace and to shoot down Russian planes, and that could lead to a full-fledged war in Europe. President Biden has been clear that we are not going to get into a war with Russia, but we are going to tremendous lengths with allies and partners to provide Ukrainians with the means to effectively defend themselves. And of course, we're seeing every single day their extraordinary heroism, as well as very real results in what they're doing to achieve that.
And then President Zelensky said this. NATO has
НАТО свідомо ухвалили рішення не закривати небо над Україною. Ми вважаємо, що країни НАТО
We believe that NATO countries have created a narrative that closing the skies over Ukraine would provoke Russia's direct aggression against NATO. This is the self-hypnosis of those who are weak, insecure inside, despite the fact that they possess weapons many times stronger than we have. President Zelensky is the bravest president that we have ever seen on television in the middle of a war. But he also has far less experience in measuring NATO's response to Russian aggression to avoid nuclear war with Russia, something NATO has been doing for decades. The only way to enforce a so-called no-fly zone is to make it a war zone. The phrase no-fly zone, as is being used this week, is a euphemism for shooting down Russian planes. If the United States shoots down Russian planes and Russia shoots down American planes, no one knows how to prevent that from turning into an all-out war between not just Russia and the United States, but Russia and every member country of NATO. Because every member country of NATO would be obligated to come to the defense of the United States when our planes are shot down. And so Vladimir Putin could be immediately firing missiles all over Europe as well as at the United States. And if Vladimir Putin decides to go nuclear in his response because he's decided he has nothing to lose, you won't recognize London or Paris or Rome after that. You won't recognize New York or Washington, D.C. Of course, Moscow and Vladimir Putin would not exist after a nuclear exchange, but no one would feel like they won. The people left alive would experience nothing but loss, the greatest loss in human history. Every president of the United States during the Cold War has stared into that abyss every time a Russian dictator rolled tanks into another country. And every Cold War president, including General Dwight Eisenhower, who won World War II in Europe as the commanding general of Allied forces, decided that as painful as it was to watch Russian aggression and cruelty, and in many cases mass murder, as Russia is doing now in Ukraine, the only thing that could make it all much, much worse would be for the United States to get in a shooting war with Russia that could lead to mutually assured destruction in an exchange of nuclear weapons. If the United States tripped into nuclear war with Russia, the Russian nuclear weapons would hit Ukraine and wipe out everyone in that country before the Russian nuclear weapons reached the United States.